Hello and good afternoon, friends. Welcome to the CEC-UGC live lecture. Dear friends, with our ongoing series on global environmental conflicts, today we would be talking on multi-purpose river valley projects. And for this very discussion, we have with us in our studio Dr. Raj Sridhali. Dr. Raj Sridhali is Associate Professor in Shri Guru Tegh Bahadur Khalsa College, Delhi University. So let's welcome Dr. Raj Sridhali and let's try to understand about various multi-purpose river valley projects. Hello ma'am, welcome to the EduSet lecture.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Today we would be talking about one more area of this global environmental conflict. Before coming to this specific topic of mine, I must mention that environment is a contested space. From the earlier lectures given by other speakers, I think this point is very clear. I must repeat it because it has always been a site of conflict, confrontation between those engaged in different economic activities. And this nature-based conflicts, they revolve around competing claims and also, a kind of contesting claims over land, over forest, over water resources, minerals, let's say forest products. So when this conflict, which revolves around these natural resources, are judged or talked about, one is basically talking about the interaction between human beings and the nature, and this conflict has become so intense at all levels. Whether it has multiple levels, the conflict is there at all different levels. Multiple aspects are there, multiple levels are there. Then the different issues, different aspect of the nature also undergoes conflict. Besides that, we find the conflict is at interstate level, at the nations level, at the international level also. And today we find that global warming is one of the intense conflict area. But anyway, instead of going with this general understanding of the conflict over the energy sources, today we are going to take a very related and area which has become very contested, contemporary, very contested, because the forest area has, that from that debate we have come to the water debate, water contestation over water. Now, when we talk about this water, today I am going to speak on the multi-purpose river valley project. Now, in this, let me make it very clear. As far as dam is concerned, diversions of river is concerned, this is not something new. With the inception of agriculture, we have evidences, or we have from all civilization where, especially if we look at the civilization of, the great civilization of 2000 BC or 3000 BC, 4000 BC, where all of them, whether it is Indus Valley civilization or the Nile, or all of them were very great urban centers. Now, how they were so urban? What is the reason how they became this urban centers? Obviously, we have to look into that. The agriculture produced enough surplus for being the civilization being urban. So the inception of agriculture and the penetration of land by human being in terms of agriculture has been very vast. And not only that, if you talk about the great civilization, if you look at ancient India, if you look at medieval India, the water management, water bank management has been a constant practice. Not taking it to only the medieval period. If you look at the colonial period also, to increase, because the maximum tax, the maximum revenue was coming from agriculture. So the colonial Raj, the British government also had extended the irrigation or irrigated area, and for that reason they had made small dams, with tanks, boulders. These are where at a small scale, where water diversion, river diversion or dams were concerned. But when we look at a little wider, periphery or a wider range, we find till 1930, there was not much as such, much bigger project taken. But 1930 in a way is a watershed as far as the technology of water management is concerned. And here I would like to bring into that how the United States took the pioneering work of building the multi-purpose river valley project. and the project was this Tennessee Valley Authority, that is TVA. This opened up the eye for the whole world. It was such a vast, such a big dam, which was for which was to function at multi-purpose. It was expected to function at different levels. The different levels meaning to provide water for irrigation, to have a new kind of energy resource, that is hydroelectricity, then to control flood, to help in flood control, to reduce the fossil burning. So this coming up of we find this TVA, Tennessee Valley Authority. The whole world was very much stunned to see at let's say project at such a vast level, at such a gigantic image of it. In fact, many of the countries in Europe, in Russia, we find that Russia, they were so impressed by it, and they followed it, imitated this kind of technology, this kind of vast building, and Volga also imitated what Tennessee had really represented, and India was also not way behind it. We find the colonial government, it also experimented with Indus river bank. Now I won't go into much into the history of how history of dam building or the river multipurpose river valley project, but when we look into how really India after independence, post independence, gave so much importance to this whole aspect of whole question of generating electricity, taking the care of food scarcity, the poverty, there's drought area, shortage of water. And the new India after independence, where our first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, he envisioned a modern India where he considered temple as the dams as a temple of modern nation, modern India. So with that kind of vision, India had really gone overboard with this whole plan to make multi-purpose river valley projects. And if we look into that, the kind of planning which the first 5-year planning gave, like according to one source, between 1947 and 1982, dam building accounted for 15% of the planned state expenditure. Now the 15% which we talk about planned state expenditure, there when they were talking about, when the whole debate around river valley projects were going on, there were many things which were not taken into account, which as we take up the discussion, it will come. What India, just after independence, the discussion or the discourse which really led to this vision of making a multi-purpose river valley project, had this monsoon, the topic of or the issue of monsoon debated very intensely, because it was held that monsoon in India, although it brings a lot of water during this monsoon area rainfall, but it stays for 3 to 4 months, and this quantity of water which it brings, it drains downstream the sea, and it has also been said that it dries off, and the storage capacity of India at that time, whether it is small dams or small tanks, are not able to hold the water which was needed for the growing population, or for the kind of necessity at the time, just after the post-independence, where there was large field which it's held that needed to be irrigated, the drinking water problem had to be taken care of, and since after the Tennessee and other very big projects which had come up, and this whole issue or the whole need for electricity was felt, And the need of electricity was also felt by the Indian government and Indian state, because it wanted to reduce the carbon emissions also, which were it seems which emitted from this fossil fuels, then biomass, which the countryside people were using dung, using other things to for their daily needs. Now, these consideration when had led to this whole the planning of India's, where where dam building was given prime importance. Now, one finds that there is a kind of paradoxical position, paradoxical situation which arises. On one way, the new India wanted a sustainable growth, sustainable development. On the other hand, there's the whole that was getting into a very complex situation. There were complexities were coming as they were bringing this their vision into practicability, a reality. Different kind of problems were emerging. For example, if I take one after them, I will get an idea about it. Now, as according to the envisioned or the visualized benefits of dam was concerned, that is, it was supposed to irrigate huge lands of huge areas of India's regions, rural areas. First question that a lot of research had questioned that itself. It says the estimated let's say output which was given by the government, it was not so, because the transmission, the distribution system was not that efficient. And the amount of money which was invested, that was also that didn't get that kind of let's say it didn't receive, or it didn't that kind of effect, because lot of electricity, lot of this water was being wasted in transmission, and the late in investing money in making the canals and the tributaries also led to the loss of what was envisioned, what was really thought about, that they're going to receive, the output would be there. Besides this economical, there was an economical cost. What the most important cost which I would like to deal upon, and one needs to look into, is the human cost and the ecological cost. All these dams, like there were so many dams which started just after our independence. They led to displacement of the people of the catchment area, where the dams were being made, because dams are the multipurpose river valley projects are usually made at a very remote areas and hill areas, and those areas, they were benefited. That is the paradoxical thing. Where the dam is being made, that community is always losing out, and there's the downstream where it goes, that the other region, that people gains, and or maybe they are the profitable where they profit. But as far as what I was trying to say about this human, the cost of human in this whole project, is that lakhs and lakhs of people are displaced from the place where it is made, and displaced, and not only that, they're displaced when they are being resettled. That is also a question, that where they would be resettled, and the area where they would be resettled, there also the forests are disseminated. The rich flora is also disseminated. The question is that at both the sites where the reservoir is made, in that area also the forest is disseminated, and the whole area gets submerged. And the new area which is thought, or which is planned to be given to the displaced people, now that also needs to be made an agricultural land or a place for the settlement of these displaced people. displaced, especially the tribal communities or the peasants. Now, along with this, what where the complexities or the paradoxical aspect of this huge technological innovation is concerned, one finds that this in this ecology what we are talking about, where a lot of woods and a lot of flora, fauna is being disseminated. This is not accounted by the government. All the research, all the research papers, if you go through it, this one thing which is coming out from this study is that there's not much research or study or statistics, let's say facts by the proponents or the government of what is the impact or what is the implication of such a big project, where how much is the loss, how much is the loss of the nature, how much is the loss of the people. Leave about the economic loss, when that I will take, definitely it cannot be left, but as far as this human cause, the ecological destroying, that's not able to give exactly, and because if they're able to measure that, maybe one can always think about this, how big one dam has to be made. Now, besides this, also these big dams had one of the objective of the big dams have been flood control. Now, with the passage of time, it has been researched, it has been said that that has also come into a lot of complexity, because the storage of water or in the reservoir, over a period of time, there's a lot of silt in that, and the siltation, in fact, the siltation compels the government, compels it to wash out the water from time to time. As far as the reservoir is concerned, the main idea behind the flood control is that, giving the example of Bihar, giving the example of earlier very bad flood, the proponents of flood control, they feel that the river can be impounded into a reservoir and the water can be released time to time. There can be controlled release of water. So this taming of the river has not really served the purpose. In fact, at many areas, at the site of many dams, huge dams, multi-purpose river valley, earthquake has happened, the dam has burst, there are very tragic incidents which has taken the reservoir bursting. So this has also entered into a very complex critical area. Now, besides this, this whole question of reservoir which is said to be used for irrigation, this has also been, there's certain things which has been raised in this criticizes that it leads to the dam diseases also, because in some dams where on the edges of the dam, the tank, the weeds also grow at very large scale. Now these leads to a number of diseases. There are mosquitoes which grow in this reservoirs. There since the area near the reservoir, because of this huge amount of water, the water level also rises in these areas, and the essential trace elements, trace materials from the water also is washed away. It's not there. That leads to a lot of bone diseases. Now, how far it's true or not, but there has been research on the shortfalls of this whole idea of reservoir or the flood control. One has also, this whole question of, electricity is also where, because one of the very important reason for in India for this multi-purpose river valley project was hydroelectricity. Here it is a very, it's a very unequal kind of proposal, a very unequal kind of project, one would say, in the sense, where the electricity is going after all. One says that Delhi is the most notorious where it borrows the maximum hydroelectricity because it has been seen through the studies that the remote areas, the villages or the catchment area where the dam has been built, they are not able to avail the electricity. The electricity is going to the towns, the urban areas, and especially when the shift in the planning commission's shift occurred from agriculture to the industrial sector, we find the electricity is going to the urban areas maximum. The whole it is catering to the towns and big towns where the people of the catchment, the people where where the dam is built, they are losing out. So one thing is very clear, which comes out from the debate, from the discourse, because definitely the discourse in a way gives puts more facts and more let's say intellectual output, or it brings forth the problems in it. So there is a dichotomy on this whole question of sustainable modernity or development, which the government and the government supporters are talking about, and of the people. In a country, in a democratic country, where with the voice of people also needs to be given a heed, and that also needs to be taken care. The estimates of the government and the estimates of the activists of different movements, I think almost all river project has its opposition, and the activists are there working. There's a huge gap in the estimates which are being given of the submergence area, of the the number of people who are going to be displaced, of the kind of losses which are being incurred, because government is also, when one talks about the displacement, where the government, the criticism is that government is not sensitive enough to look at the cultural affiliation or the cultural preservation of the people who are being displaced, because mostly the people who are being displaced are from the marginal category, the tribals. The government is, they have different explanations for that. They said people in general migrate for their employment, for their job. So it is not a big thing. Now, looking at that kind of explanation and looking at the plight of lakhs of tribals who are lakhs of people who are being displaced is a problematic area. When we talk about the whole question of how this issue of big dams big dams had created a tussle between the government and the people, and the conflict for this energy, it is so intense. I would be taking up two case studies, and that is, I'll be talking about Sardar Sarovar project and Tehri Dam in a little bit. From these two or many other movements, which if one studies them, one finds that the struggle, the conflict is so intense over this energy resource, and intense where a lot of, which is very important, I feel, that due to this discourse, so many other issues are coming up, and the government is forced to look into that. The government is look into some kind of alternative purpose. Whether the government is stopping the building of the dams and all, that is one issue. Definitely the government is not paying heed in many contexts, and they are building the dams. But what is also very important is these movements, they're forcing, they're compelling the government and the civil society to to build up a discourse on these natural conflicts, the conflict of the natural energies, and it is also, this whole it is challenging the government at all levels. It is forcing it also to, in a way, if it's not agreeing, also in a way to think and think on the lines of rehabilitation, think in the lines of let's say reimbursement talk, which otherwise may not have been so may not have been taken a concrete shape. Now, when we look at this multi-purpose river valley projects, the issues which they had, when just after independence, India started. For India, food security was very important. But in fact, the government records, the planning records, the 6th plan records, they themselves say the area or the food production or the area of irrigated which they had visualized, that is not practically achieved. And it is very surprising and interesting that different government reports are also talking about that the installation of money or the finance which it has invested in the hydroelectric and this project, it is not getting returned to that what they had expected. There is a loss which they are incurring. Here, this other which they are talking about is that in Delhi or in the urban centers where there is thermal powers, and the thermal powers were expected to generate a fixed quantity of its energy power. One finds that especially in the case of Delhi, what was the amount of electricity or which was fixed for Delhi, it is taking more than that. It is crossing its limit and taking it. Now here we find that somewhere this the industrial sector or the capital like Delhi, they're all indiscriminately taking the favor or taking the benefits of such a large project which is for the good of all, also needs to be taken very seriously. If at all one is talking about a project which is for the good of the people, for the for the food production of the people, it also needs to be analyzed. Okay. What is it? As far as the movements are concerned around these issues which I have just talked about, the problematic issues, that the paradoxical, if we look at on a general level, not coming to a really specific case study yet, whether it is Hirakund, whether it is Tehri, whether it is Narmada's Sardar Sarovar and all these movements have been able to generate the discussion, have been able to take the discourse beyond its local area, beyond its local place where the people are inhabiting the basin. Now this taking over the issue to a level beyond that, to the civil society, has helped a lot in understanding or making or in a way raising the consciousness of the people regarding environment. Now, why I bring this point, because I find it very important where where the role of these movements have to be seen, have to be appreciated, where it has informed these facts and these problems, these complexities and this paradoxical nature of the innovations, technological innovations. Now, when I say this, this is not only limited to Indian context. It is worldwide, and where there are problems which they are facing, which comes across. But in Indian context, maybe the problem is more grave due to a kind of which has been which comes out from many research work, is that the government has taken it very lightly, meaning the implications of it, the devastating implications of it, or what it really is achieving. Now that has not been taken into much account. Most of the research works on this, you'll find when you read it, the first thing one is talking about is that one is really not aware of the implication. Government has adopted this because when we look at India just at the post-independence, it had to legitimate its government. So government has its own priorities, its own perception about implementing such major projects where it is, as when I was talking about the United States Tunisia Valley Authority, it's in a way it serves the politically also it is very helpful, because the new nations which were coming up, they had to legitimate themselves. So before coming to this the individual movements, there are 2 points which we need to look at. On one hand, what the government is claiming, what is the government's need for bringing such kind of major projects to legitimate itself, to think of the good of the overall good of the country, so-called taking care of food security, of poverty, shortage of water, let's say flood control, and it has its own way of taking it further. And the other is the other section with the other, let's say paradoxically, the other side is what is it really doing to the area where it is being built, what is it doing, what is happening to the ecological area around it, what is happening to the human beings or the people who are settled in that area. Now these are 2 areas which are very important when we talk about multi-purpose river valley project. It is just not the structure, it is just not the let's say shape or the whole structure of the dam, but it is more than that. It is bringing other debates into it. We were talking about, I was talking about a general understanding of this multi-river valley projects. I'll just slightly, just to contextualize this understanding, I'll just talk about 2 case studies. One is Sardar Sarovar project and Tehri Dam. Now, as far as Sardar Sarovar project is concerned, it is claim that it would irrigate more than 1.8 million acres of land, and this was the proposed height was 136.5 meters. And what is important in this project is that it includes 3 major sites in 3 regions, very big very big states, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra and Gujarat. And as far as this Sardar Sarovar project is concerned, this is this is a project on river Narmada, and Narmada is largest west flowing river, and in Indian Peninsula, and in Madhya Pradesh, it's in Shahadol district. Now Narmada, it's like we would be talking about Tehri Dam. So there's both the cases are very different, because Narmada is a different kind of river, and when we talk about Tehri, that is it's a kind of snow-fed rivers. Now Narmada has very major tributaries. It has 14 tributaries, and Sardar Sarovar project is one of the major 30 dams which are coming up. And as far as this Narmada basin is area is concerned, it is bounded by the basin is bounded by 3 very important areas for mountain range: Satpura, Vindhyas, and the other is Maikal. And on one side is the Arabian Sea. Besides this, Narmada Valley also we find that at this basin there's a sizable tribal population which stays. I find it very important to mention because who the indigenous people who are staying there, how their life is being affected. So this tribal population which I just mentioned, they're divided into several distinct tribes like Bhil, Gonds, Begas and others. And besides them, there are a number of peasants who are also there. And Narmada Valley project, or this, where we would be talking about Sardar Sarovar, is one of the massive, and it is the the biggest single river valley project in India. It's quite a vast project, and it seems the master plan, the whole plan, besides Sardar Sarovar, it envisages very large, and there's a series of dams which are sought to be built along this river. It's not one dam, the series of dams, and it seeks to fundamentally reorder the rights of the many sets of people. Why I say this? Because if it is a vast river plan, if there's so many dams, major dams, small dams, obviously it is going to alter the life pattern, the livelihood, the ecosystem, at a very massive level, at a very multiple level, and also at a very massive level. And it has and a very important thing in this river valley project, for that matter, and most of the river valley project, we find that they've ignored the popular demands. They've ignored the popular demands of equity, efficiency, participatory decisions making, and accountability. Now, these are very important aspects, and you will find, although this in all river valley projects, and on these issues you have opposition which has been building up. The question of equity, the question of participatory, the question of efficiency, accountability of the government, which I was talking in the first section. And we find that most of the opposition as far as this Narmada Valley project is concerned is on the Sardar Sarovar project. And Sardar Sarovar project has been in news, and it is the area where we find that maximum discussions has been going on. Now, when we talk about Narmada, I want to, when we talk about Sardar Sarovar Valley project, I want to take it a little further. This movement, Sardar Sarovar project, getting into the details of the movement will be a later thing, but the discussions and disagreement over this project has challenged the government at all levels. That is a very unique thing about this movement, is that it has challenged the government at multiple levels, at all levels, and it has successfully created an awareness. It has successfully created an awareness among people, and has brought into its fold many NGOs, many activities. That is the very unique thing about the Sardar Sarovar, that it has been able to link itself to other social movements. It has been able to bring, to that extent, attention at the international level, which we'll just talk about it, And this most importantly, this is one movement which has contributed immensely to the political discourse of alternative development in India. That's a very crucial thing, which I would say that it has really in a way been an inspiration for other movements also. And this is a multi-purpose project which is a terminal major dam in Gujarat, built on the river Narmada, which is quite big, as I said. So Narmada Valley project has many dams, but I would just mention the two projects are very important. One is Sardar Sarovar, and the other is Narmada Sagar project that's also in Madhya Pradesh. Now, let's since we don't have much time, because I would be talking, I would like to bring the issue of Tehri also. The consequences of this dam has been discussed, and it has been very alarming. It seems the reservoir would submerge 37 hectares of land, and where the 1,000 hectares are declared as forest, and it would displace more than 1 lakh persons in 248 villages, and 19 in Gujarat. Maximum in we see in Madhya Pradesh, that is 193 villages in Madhya Pradesh and 36 in Maharashtra. So one can look at the whole magnitude of its displacement, and the state government has initiated the project as Gujarat was one of the drought prone area, drought prone or worst water starved regions in India, and it was been a perennial problem for India as a nation, that how this has to be taken care, and that's how Sardar Sarovar project needs to be taken care. It is desired by the government to take care of Gujarat's water starved zone, and because in Gujarat there's a shortage of water, it seems, for domestic and commercial, agricultural, industrial sector. So, and Gujarat is also affected by, it was also affected by bad droughts during 1985-88. Now, original plan of this Narmada project was to become an irrigation project, with 161 feet high dams. Later on, it was decided to make it an multi-purpose dam, and the height had to be raised to 455, and with negotiations attempting for, there was a lot of negotiation between people and the government on this from very beginning. And what happened was that the Indian government established Narmada Water Disputes Tribunal, and this tribunal came out with or announced an award, and it planned to allocate land to the outster at least a year before submergence. So this was the award which is which talked about that land had to be allocated to the displaced people or the would be displaced people affected by the project before submergence. Now, after this declaration of the award, one finds there's an opposition which gathers around this whole project, and initially the opposition was carried on by Arjun Singh, who was a leader in Congress government, and he organized a movement around this issue, and the movement he carried on, it was called Nimar Bachao Andolan. Now, this Andolan, this is Nimar Bachao Andolan, they fought and contested the question for some time, but it died away. The whole movement died away and collapsed. But soon the movement was taken over by Medha Patekar, and there was the organized opposition to this dam in 1985. And they started working for this Sardar Sarovar projects, the submergence problem, and basically gradually leading to this movement called Narmada Bachao Andolan, and where methods of dharna, sitting in, demonstrations were also included. And initially one finds that that is Narmada Bachao Andolan, they worked for rehabilitation of those people who would be displaced by the upcoming dam. But however, the increasing involvement of the activists and different people, civilians and all, the perception changed. The perception didn't just remain to rehabilitation question. They started the critique or developed in other areas also. Now the critique was also on the mode of development, and how they were also questioning the government's attempt to give a very limited rehabilitation, and they also saw how the people would be how the people livelihoods would be substantially affected by the project. Somehow, ultimately, we find that doing a rigorous technical studies of this project and all, many claims were made. But by 1988, we find the Narmada Bachao Andolan decided to change, or it changed its public position, and there was a total opposition to the dam. The total opposition to the building of the dam. They opposed the height which was proposed to be built, 136. So, in coming with, there was a evolution of the perception regarding the dam. Initially, it was just rehabilitation. Then they were trying to gather more information about it, and gradually it came out to the whole question of the dam. And their opposition, their gathering support for it, where they forged creative ties with other social movements. This all pressurized other bodies to consider it. For example, World Bank was giving a huge amount aid to Narmada Bachao Andolan, but the pressure which was built up by Narmada Bachao Andolan and at the international level also. So they had to think about it, and they in fact went for an inquiry, and they constituted a committee to look into look into it, and then the World Bank decided not to extend the support to the support for the making of this river valley project. But interestingly, or I would say paradoxically, this really didn't stop the government to take a heed to this kind of reports, where the whole question of the credibility, the whole question of the implication of such a big dam was being discussed and criticized. In fact, it seems the pressure in Japan also led the Japanese government, to stop its financial aid to this project. The activists of Narmada Bachao Andolan, they filed a case also, against the height of the proposed height of the Narmada, the Sardar Sarovar project. But Supreme Court, as we see, I cannot go in a chronological history of that, but in interim order and in between, Supreme Court gave the order of increasing the height throughout, and where it was not stopped in spite of so much of voice being raised and so much of opposition to it. And the issue was in the glare of the whole public scrutiny. It had come into the glare of the public scrutiny, where there was a movement. As a movement, the conflicts has been very intense, where it is, as I don't know whether I mentioned it or not, but it was not, the conflict was not limited, or was not only by the people who were at the basin, river basin, but it was, that national, it was at the national level, at the international level, but incidentally, or let's say, it was not taken or given heed by the government. Whereas the case was filed, the judgment was also not given in the favor of the people. What one needs to look into such kind of a fight, or where one finds that such a prolific or such an unrest or movement is trying to bring, because maybe the height or the government is carrying on with this project, but the relevance or the importance of the movement cannot be ignored, because this movement, which started as a fight for information about the Narmada Valley development projects, ultimately developed a fight for just rehabilitation, the just rehabilitation of lakhs of people who are to be ousted by Sardar Sarovar project. And it also talked about the height so consistently that now it has become a part of every discourse which any new project has to be undertaken. And in this also, one also needs to look into that when when one gets in this receives immense international support, the pressure on the government, the state government, the pressure on the government is also built up continuously. And if at all they go for such kind of building, one has to be very cautious. Here, I would like to bring into the other movement, which is where the repercussion may be or the impact may be a little similar to what is there in Sardar Sarovar project, but it's an entirely different, because one has to also look into what is the geological and geographical location where these rivers are originating from, because Narmada, as I said, although it originated in Madhya Pradesh, in this area, where that is a different controversy, which we cannot bring into today, where because it originates in the very in the tank where a lot of temples are there. It has got a very cultural and religious importance, because Narmada River follows from a very culturally rich and very religiously associated area. That is an area, a different area altogether, and there's a lot of opposition from there also. But if you look at the other, very important, very famous and very controversial movement is the Tehri Dam. And why Tehri is very controversial is, the first point is the location of its construction. Because it is an Himalayan dam, and Himalayan dam has to be seen in a very different from a dam which is built at the plains. And Tehri especially, it is supposed to be built at 1.5 kilometer downstream from the point of confluence of the Bhagirathi and Bilangana rivers, and it's around 80 kilometers north of Rishikesh and UP. So the very fact that where the river where it is located, it seems where the geoscientists and also environmentalists suggest that this area where it is located, it is a very alarming place. Why? Because one, it is located at a where the dam is located at a place which could trigger an earthquake because it's a very seismically very active area. Secondly, it is it is in a very narrow gorge. It is in a very narrow gorge, and since it is being constructed for serving two purposes, dual purposes. One is, I know, which is a very general thing, is to generate hydroelectric power, and the installed capacity is very high. The installed capacity is around 2,000 megawatts, and it seems what is being envisioned, or what is the plan of the government, was that it is supposed to provide water for irrigating 6,68,000 acres of land. So it's a huge plan in a way, and what the geoscientists they believe is that this area where this dam is being proposed, and the dam is not only that I'm talking about the proposed, but it seems, according to them, dam is supposed to be formed with rocks and rubble, which are technically termed as which is technically termed as rock fill dams, and it is going to be, it seems, 260.5 meters high. Now, what is the explanation which is given by the geoscientists is that this site is the site which has been selected is unsuitable because of the highly fissile nature of the rocks there, and also the presence of fissures and faults in the rock bed. And one of the person who is consistently working in this, and as I would talk about it, that he's part of the movement also, V.D. Saklania, he points out, in fact, the most solid rocks in this river gorge have been found to contain open joints, weak zones, fractures, fissures, cleavages, and other tectonic features. So once the dam is filled, it seems there will be excessive water seepage. Because one has to look at the nature of the rocks. One is, talking about the area, and as I said, the dam is located across a very narrow gorge. It seems, this area doesn't have that the things, let's say, the material which it needs, because if what needs in a construction of a dam is, especially Tehri Dam, would be building materials like granite, quartzite, sandstone, and which is going to, it seems, make additional problems, because these things are not locally available, and the narrowness and the steepness of this gorge and the adjacent area makes it very, the location, these things makes the transportation very difficult. So one can imagine that getting these things in such a narrow gorge, what kind of difficulty or what kind of ecological hazards one would meet. And construction of roads would be there, definitely building of different kind of structures would be needed for this hazard. And before just ending, because I don't think we have much time on this, is this what the scientists, geoscientists have been pointing out is that when a multi-purpose dam is being built, one of the very important function of it is seen as a flood control, and so here at this delicate dam, where the location of the dam is going to in fact raise a lot of problems. It seems the pressure of huge amount of water which is impounded in the reservoir could trigger off very big earthquake, because the rate of siltation and of the Bhagirathi and Bilangana are huge, because both are snow fed rivers at the sources, and being the snow fed rivers from the sources and which they are coming from glaciers, they carry large quantities of silts and large quantities of boulders, and these large quantities of silt and boulders, if we look into research, they really fill up the reservoir, and instead of taking care of the flood, it is bound to create other problems. Around this area, around this whole this questions on this issues, we have an organization very strongly who's put forward these difficulties, which has come up, is this Tehri Bandh Virodhi Sangarsh Samiti, which was formed in 1978, and this movement, or this they campaigned against the decision to build the dam. And here, I don't want to miss out the two people who were involved, who were carrying forward, who were the pioneers of the movement. Besides V.D. Saklania, is Sundarlal Bahuguna, who is very famous with this movement of Chipko movement. These the ecologists, the geoscientists, when they raise this issue, or they bring into our knowledge that the seismic active, or the alertness which one needs to take care while building dams here. On one hand, we have a very strong movement from this Tehri Bandh Virodhi Sangarsh Samiti, which was formed, and they have also made the movement at an international level. People are very concerned about it. But when we look at the answers from the government, that is also very interesting, where the government has consistently maintained that comparatively the location where Tehri Dam would be made is seismically less hazardous. And they also are of the opinion that the reservoir would not be as harmful, which has been talked about, or which has been given, which has been talked about by the opponents of the Tehri Dam. Now, not going whether much detail into this, because it is as maybe in some other lecture we can always take the detailed lecture of this, because these movements are carrying on for decades, and there are different methods, different methodology, different way the movements are taking place. That is also a very important field of studies, where different ideologies are also working, very opposing ideologies are working. It's not necessarily that changes or oppositions are from all progressive organizations. We have the green saffron also, who are into or opposing these projects, multi-river valley projects. Now, if you look at it holistically, although there's so many movements, and we have just touched upon two movements, and So this tussle, this conflict, which is taking a very intensified shape, is, I would say, again one of the conflict over natural resources, the energy resources, and the government has its own side to, I would use the word, to hegemonize also its its rule. It goes for these very big projects, but the movements has at least brought these things, brought these issues, these glaring inequity, the glaring devastation of environmental devastation in our has highlighted them, and that contribution has to be taken in account. And besides the contribution, I would also say that the question raised by the movements are also important in policy making and altering the policies, because when we talk about dams, they are also one is talking about the altering the rivers, altering the nature. So in this perspective, the ideas given by the movements are important.
With this note, thank you, ma'am. Thank you so very much for giving us a very productive session. And dear friends, we believe that your feedbacks are very important for us. So do write to us at info.cec@nic.in. This lecture is going to be uploaded on YouTube very soon. Till then, take care. Goodbye. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.